Hello, hello. Test, 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 test. Okay, so we're live. And we're gonna do another Sutta study. We're finally gonna be going through the Samaññaphala Sutta, which we have been kind of referring to a lot during the other Sutta studies. So we've been jumping a little bit around. Mostly we've been jumping forth, and so now we're finally jumping back to a sutta that I've been looking very much forward to. And so let's do the intro of paying homage to the Buddha. Namo Buddhassa Bhagavato Arahato Sambuddhassa. Homage to the worthy one, homage to the blessed one, the worthy one, and the fully self-enlightened one. Okay. Yep, I don't really have anything much to say, because what I would like to, in any case of adding anything to our study of the Digha Nikaya, that would just be the suttas that we went through in the previous study. Because I think you could do it both ways. You could do them later, and you can do them first. So, let's see. The long discourses of the Buddha. It's such a wonderful book to look at. Every time I look at it, it fills me with a serene sense of calm, I think. If that's the right way to say that, I don't actually know. But it's very, very nice to have both that one and the Majjhima Nikaya laying around. Okay, so I've been reading a little bit into this one, just a couple of pages, so I kind of get the gist of where we're going, but I don't think I've read this version of the sutta, and surely I haven't read the sutta in this book before. Okay, so get into a comfortable position and meditate, if possible, or just listen and enjoy. So this is going to be the Samaññaphala Sutta, the fruits of the homeless life, or recluse life. Some people refer to the Bodhisattva as the recluse Gautama. I hear that more often than I hear the homeless Gautama. In any case. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. If I do this, I should be able to see. And we get a little bit more white color. I should be able to see the chat here, just in case some of the live viewers have questions, which would be nice to have an answer for during the stream. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and read the Samaññaphala Sutta. just says 47 at the beginning. Okay. I don't really know what the big numbers mean yet. Probably they mean something other than the footnotes. Okay. So how should I turn for this reading? Would it look? This looks very book-like. Okay. Are you ready? Thus have I heard. Once the Lord was staying at Rajga in Jivaka Kumarabacha's mango grove. And we have a lot of footnotes here at the beginning, I noticed, and I want to read them this time, just as an introduction to mostly who we're dealing with in this sutta. So, 91. Jivaka Kumarabacha, his mango grove, the royal physician. Okay. So he was staying at the royal physician's mango grove, together with a large company of some 1,250 monks, and at that time King Ajatasattu Vetiputta of Magadha reigned circa 491 to 459 BC. He had killed his father, the noble Bimbasara, to gain the throne. Okay. That's really an unfortunate situation for this guy. I didn't know that King Ajatasattu Vetiputta of Magadha had done so. At least I don't remember him by name. Having gone up to the roof of his palace, was sitting there surrounded by his ministers. On the 15th day, fast day, 93, Uposata, Upawasata, here denotes a Brahmin fast day. Later in Buddhism, the fortnightly day of confession for monks. Fifteenth fasting, the full moon of the 14th month, called Kumudi. Now we have 94 and 95, and this pretty much Kartika, mid-October to mid-November. And 95, called after the white water lily, Kumuda, which blooms then. So it was the moon of the 4th month, the full moon of the 4th month, called Kumudi. And King Ajatasattu, on that fast day, gave and went to his solemn utterance. Delightful, friends, is this moonlit night. Charming is this moonlit night. Auspicious is this moonlit night. Can we not today visit some ascetic or Brahmin, to visit whom would bring peace to our heart? 96. Our heart is royal plural. Ajatasattu was troubled in conscience on account of his crime. Okay, so the reason he wants to bring peace to his heart, pointed out by the footnote, was that he had worries in his mind. Understandably so. Then one minister said to King Ajatasattu, "Sire, there is Purana Kassapa, who has many followers, a teacher of many, who is well known, renowned, the founder of a sect, highly honored by the multitude, of long-standing, long since gone forth, aged and venerable. May your Majesty visit this Purana Kassapa. He may well bring peace to your Majesty's heart." At these words, King Ajatasattu was silent. Another minister said, "Sire, there is Makali Gosala, who has many followers. He may well bring peace to your Majesty's heart." At these words, King Ajatasattu was silent. Another minister said, "Sire, there is Ajitta Kesakambali." At these words, the King Ajatasattu was silent. Another minister said, "Sire, there is Pakutta Kachayana. Pakutta Kachayana." At these words, King Ajatasattu was silent. Another minister said, "Sire, there is Sanjaya Belataputta." At these words, King Ajatasattu was silent. Another minister said, "Sire, there is the Nikanta Nataputta, who has many followers, a teacher of many, who is well known, aged and venerable. May your Majesty visit this Nikanta Nataputta. He may well bring peace to your Majesty's heart." At these words, King Ajatasattu was silent. And number 8, it just says 8 here. All this time, Jivaka Kumarabhaja was sitting silently near King Ajatasattu. The king said to him, "You friend Jivaka, why are you silent?" "Sire, there is the Blessed Lord, the Arahant, the fully enlightened Buddha, staying in my mango grove with a large company of some 1,250 monks. And concerning the blessed Gautama, this fair report has spread about. This blessed Lord is an Arahant, a fully enlightened Buddha, endowed with wisdom and conduct, the wayfarer, knower of the worlds, incomparable trainer of men to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, enlightened and blessed." And then we have a footnote on men fit to be tamed. One who trains men who are capable of being trained, as a charioteer trains horses. May your Majesty visit the Blessed Lord. He may well bring peace to your Majesty's heart. Then Jivaka, have the riding elephants made ready." "Very good, sire," said Jivaka, and he had 500 she-elephants made ready, and for the king the royal tusker. Then he reported, "Sire, the riding elephants are ready. Now is the time to do as your Majesty wishes." And King Ajatasattu, having placed his wives each on one of the 500 she-elephants, mounted the royal tusker and proceeded in royal state, accompanied by torch-bearers, from Rajagaha towards Jivaka's mango grove. And when King Ajatasattu came near the mango grove, he felt fear and terror, and his hair stood on end. And feeling this fear and the rising of the hairs, the king said to Jiwaka, "Friend Jiwaka, you're not deceiving me. You're not tricking me. You're not delivering me up to an enemy. How is it that from this great number of 1,250 monks, not a sneeze, a cough, or a shout is to be heard? Have no fear, your majesty. I would not deceive you, or trick you, or deliver you up to an enemy. Approach, sire, approach. There are lights burning in the round pavilion." So King Ajatasattu, having ridden on his elephant as far as the ground would permit, alighted and continued on foot to the door of the round pavilion. Then he said, "Jiwaka, where is the Lord?" "That is the Lord, sire. That is the Lord, sitting against the middle column with his order of monks in front of him." Then King Ajatasattu went up to the Lord and stood to one side, and standing there to one side, the king observed how the order of monks continued in silence like a clear lake, and he exclaimed, "If only Prince Udayabhatta were possessed of such calm as this order of monks." "Do your thoughts go to the one you love, your majesty?" "Lord, Prince Udayabhatta is very dear to me. If only he were possessed of the calm as this order of monks." Prince Udayabhatta, the son who was eventually to kill him, only to be murdered in turn by his son, it evidently ran in the family. Then King Ajatasattu, having bowed down to the Lord and saluted the order of monks with joined hands, sat down to one side and said, "Lord, I would ask something, if the Lord would deign to answer me." "Ask, your majesty, anything you like." "Lord, just as there are these various craftsmen, such as elephant drivers, horse drivers, chariot fighters, archers, standard bearers, adjutants, army caterers, champions and senior officers, scouts, heroes, brave fighters, cuirassiers, slaves' sons, cooks, barbers, bathmen, bakers, garland makers, bleachers, weavers, basket makers, potters, calculators, and accountants, and whatever other skills there are, they enjoy here and now the visible fruit of their skills. They themselves are delighted and pleased with this, as are their parents, children, and colleagues and friends, and maintain and support ascetics and Brahmins, thus assuring for themselves a heavenly, happily reward tending towards paradise. Can you, Lord, point to such a reward, visible here and now, as the fruit of the homeless life?" "Your Majesty, do you admit that you have put this question to other ascetics and Brahmins?" "I admit it, Lord." "Would your Majesty mind saying how they replied?" "I do not mind telling the Lord, or one like him." "Well then, your Majesty, tell me." "Once, Lord, I went to see Purana Kassapa, with a footnote here, a naked wanderer. Such views as his involving a denial of any reward or punishment for good or bad deeds are regarded as especially pernicious. Pernicious views. Very, very dangerous. Once, Lord, I went to see Purana Kassapa. Having exchanged courtesies, I sat down to one side and said, "Good Kassapa, just as there are these various craftsmen," and then the ones we heard before, "they enjoy here and now the visible fruit of their skills," as verse 14. Can you, Kassapa, point to such a reward visible here and now as a fruit of the homeless life? So this... Oh no, let's just continue on. I was just thinking if this guy, Purana Kassapa, had at one point been this King Ajasati, Ajasata. I just can't remember this guy's name. Maybe we should just henceforth call him Ajasatu, because that's his name. Okay, so I was just thinking if this wanderer had at some point been his teacher in the holy life. But it doesn't seem so. Let's just continue on. At this, Lord, Purana Kassapa said, "Your Majesty, by the doer or instigator of a thing, by one who cuts or causes to be cut, by one who burns or causes to be burnt, by one who causes grief and weariness, by one who agitates or causes agitation, who causes life to be taken, or that which is not given to be taken, commits burglary, carries off booty, commits robbery, lies in ambush, commits adultery and tells lies. No evil is done," said Purana Kassapa. If with a razor-sharp wheel one were to make of this earth one single mass and heap of flesh, there would be no evil as a result of that. No evil would accrue. If one were to go along the south bank of the Ganges, killing, slaying, cutting, or causing to be cut, burning or causing to be burnt, there would be no evil as a result of that. No evil would accrue. Or, if one were to go along the north bank of the Ganges, giving and causing to be given, sacrificing and causing to be sacrificed, there would be no merit as a result of that. No merit would accrue. In giving, self-control, abstinence, and telling the truth, there is no merit, and no merit accrues. Said the wanderer Purana Kassapa. Thus, Lord, Purana Kassapa, on being asked about the present fruits of the homeless life, explained non-action to me, just as if, on being asked about a mango, he were to describe a breadfruit tree, or on being asked about a breadfruit tree, he were to describe a mango. So Purana Kassapa, on being asked about the present fruits of the homeless life, explained non-action to me. And Lord, I thought, how should one like me think? despitefully of any ascetical Brahmin dwelling in my territory. So I neither applauded nor rejected Purana-Kassapa's words, but though displeased, not expressing my displeasure, saying nothing, rejecting and scorning speech, I got up and left. Now we got the footnote 100. Probably owing to his bad conscience, but the remark also suggests the enormous and not always deserved respect in which such wandering teachers were held. Okay, yeah, so this guy is a king, and as we can see, he has self-restraint and a deep sense of respect for even just a homeless wanderer, which he himself recognizes has and clings to, cultivates and develops this pernicious view of he's basically saying that karma does not exist. Cause and effect is not a part of reality. This is what this guy's claiming. Purana Kassapa. Once I visited Makali Gosala and asked him the same question. 101. Makali, of the cowpen leader of the Ajivakas, and asked him the same question. Makali Gosala said, Your Majesty, there is no cause or condition for the defilement of beings. They are defiled without cause or condition. There is no cause or condition for the purification of beings. They are purified without cause or condition. There is no self-power or other power. There is no power in humans, no strength or force, no vigor or exertion. All beings, all living things, all creatures, all that lives is without control, without power or strength. They experience the fixed course of pleasure and pain through the 6 kinds of rebirth. There are 1,400,000 principal sorts of birth, and 6,000 others, and again 600. There are 500 kinds of karma, or 5 kinds and 3 kinds, and half karma. These 2 paths, 62 intermediary eons, 6 classes of human kinds, 8 stages of human progress, 4,900 occupations, 4,900 wanderers, 4,900 abodes of nagas, 2,000 sentient existences, 3,000 hells, 36 places of dust, 7 classes of rebirth as conscious beings, 7 as unconscious beings, and 7 as being freed from bonds. 7 grades of devas, men, goblins, 7 legs, 7 great and 7 small protuberances, 7 great and 7 small abysses, 7 great and 7 small dreams, 8,400,000 eons during which fools and wise run on and circle round till they make an end of suffering. So we have like 5 footnotes that we're going to skip. Therefore, there is no such thing as saying, by this discipline or practice, or austerity or holy life, I will bring my unripened karma to fruition, or I will gradually make this ripened karma go away. Now that this is more interesting, 210. The Buddhist view of karma is thus denied. Yeah. So this guy denies the Buddhist view of karma. Maybe he's kind of a Hindu or I don't know. Neither of these things is possible because pleasure and pain have been measured out with a measure limited by the round of rebirth and death, and there is neither increase nor decrease, neither excellence nor inferiority. Just as a ball of string when thrown runs till it is all unravelled, just so fools and wise run on and circle round till they make an end of suffering. Thus Lord Makali on being asked about the fruits of the homeless life, explained the purification of the round of birth and death to me. So I neither applauded nor rejected Makali Gosala's words, but got up and left. Once I visited Ajita Kesampali and asked him the same question. Ajita of the hairy garment, he wore a cloak of human hair. A materialist. Ajita Kesakambali said, Your Majesty, there is nothing given, bestowed, offered, and sacrificed. There's no fruit or result of good or bad deeds. There's not this world or the next. There is no mother or father. There are no spontaneously arisen beings, such as an anagami, footnote 112. Let's see what it says. It's a CF period NN period 49, 63 period. There are in the world no ascetics or Brahmins who have attained, who have perfectly praised, who proclaim this world and the next, having realized them by their own super-knowledge. This human being is composed of 4 great elements, and when one dies, the earth part reverts to earth, the water part to water, the fire part to fire, the air part to air, and the faculties pass away into space. They accompany the dead man with 4 bearers, and the bier as 5th. Neither footsteps are heard as far as the cremation ground. There the bones whiten, the sacrifice ends in ashes. It is the idea of a fool to give this gift. The talk of those who preach the doctrine of survival is vain and false. Fools and wise, at the breaking up of the body, are destroyed and perish. They do not exist after death. Thus Lord Ajita Kesakambali, on being asked about the fruits of the homeless life, explained the doctrine of annihilation to me. I got up and left. Once I visited Pakutta Kachayana and asked him the same question. Householder of an atomic theory. Pakutta Kachayana said, Your Majesty, these 7 things are not made or of a kind to be made, uncreated, unproductive, barren, false, stable as a column. They do not shake, do not change, obstruct, one another, nor are they able to cause one another pleasure, pain, or both. What are the seven? The earth body, the water body, the fire body, the air body, pleasure and pain, and the life principle. These seven are not made, thus there is neither slain nor slayer, neither hearer nor proclaimer, neither knower nor causer of knowing. And whoever cuts off a man's head with a sharp sword does not deprive anyone of life, he just inserts the blade in the intervening space between these seven bodies. Thus Lord Prakutta Kachayana, on being asked about the fruits of the homeless life, answered with something quite different. I got up and left. Something quite different. I visited Niganta Nataputta and asked him the same question. The name given in Pali Canon to Vardhamana Mahavira, the leader of the Jains, he is several times referred to unfavorably in the canon, e.g. at Majjhima Nikaya 56, Niganta means free from bonds. The Niganta Nataputta said, Your Majesty, here Niganta is bound by a fourfold restraint. What for? He is curbed. He is curbed by all curbs, enclosed by all curbs, cleared by all curbs, and claimed by all curbs. 115. Sappa Varito, Sappa Variyutto, Sappa Varitutto, Sappa Variputto. With some variant readings, they do not represent the genuine Jain teaching, but seem to parody it in a punning form. The Jains do have a rule of restraint in regard to water, and vari can mean water restraint, or possibly sin, and some of the verbal forms are equally dubious. The reference to one free from bonds, and yet bound by these restraints, whatever they are, is a deliberate paradox. I am most grateful to K.R. Norman for his very helpful comments. Finally, I settled for a slight variation of the Venerable Nyanamoli's rendering of the corresponding passage in Majjhima Nikaya, or MN 56. And as far as a Niganta is bound by this fourfold restraint, thus the Niganta is called self-perfected, self-controlled, and self-established. Thus, the Lord Niganta Nataputta, on being asked about the fruits of the homeless life, explained the fourfold restraint to me. I got up and left. Once I visited Sanjaya Pilatatputta, and asked him the same question. Sanjaya Pilatatputta said, If you ask me, is there another world? If I thought so, I would say so. Is he one of those evil wigglers? But I don't think so. I don't say it is so, and I don't say it is otherwise. I don't say it is not, and I don't and I don't not say it is not. If you ask, if you ask, isn't there another world? Isn't there both? Neither. Is there fruit and result of good and bad deeds? Isn't there? Isn't there both? Isn't there neither? Does the Tathagata exist after death? Does he not? Both? Neither. I don't not... I'm sorry. I don't not say it is not. Thus Lord Sanjaya Belattaputta, on being asked about the fruits of, of the homeless life, replied by evasion, just as if on being asked about a mango he were to describe a breadfruit tree. And I thought, of all these ascetics and Brahmins, Sanjaya Belattaputta is the most... Oh, sorry, but this is too... Oh my god. Okay, so... I'm gonna have to take this shirt off just because it's so warm, but okay, so let's just see if this next part is not gonna be so hilarious. And I thought, of all these ascetics and Brahmins, Sanjaya Belattaputta is the most stupid and confused. So I neither applauded nor rejected his words, but I got up and left. And so, Lord, and I now ask the Blessed Lord, just as there are these various craftsmen who enjoy here and now the visible fruits of their skills, assuring for themselves a heavenly happy reward. Can you, Lord, point to such a reward visible here and now, just as a fruit of the homeless life? So finally, this guy gets to ask the Buddha the same question. And I'm really sorry that I laughed so much before. And it was just that he was just so stupid and funny. I couldn't not laugh. Which I did. So now the Buddha is gonna give his answer. What do you think, sire? Suppose there were a man... Let me just get a little bit of tea. What do you think, sire? Suppose there were a man, a slave, a laborer, getting up before you and going to bed after you, willingly doing whatever has to be done, well-mannered, pleasant-spoken, working in your presence, and he might think, it is strange, it is wonderful, the destiny and fruits of meritorious deeds. Footnote 116. Meritorious deeds, punya, the Pali word, do not lead to enlightenment, but to temporary future happiness in this world or another. This is the usual aim of popular Buddhism. Yeah. So doing good deeds because they have to. But a lot of people also don't do good deeds, even though they also have to. They just do bad deeds. But mostly those so-called good Buddhists or good doers, they're just eel wigglers. Because the Buddha quite clearly put it, that there's something to be done, and how it should be done, and how it should not be done, and the only way to fail in this undertaking of doing action, karma, is to 1. Not begin, and 2. Not go far enough. So, I completely lost my This King Ajasattu, Vediputta of Magadha, is a man, and I too am a man. Okay, so this King Ajasattu, Vediputta of Magadha, is a man, and I too am a man. The king is addicted to and indulges in the fivefold sense pleasure, just like a god, whereas I am a slave, working in his presence. I ought to do something meritorious. Suppose I were to shave off my hair and beard, don yellow robes, and go forth from the household life into homelessness. And before long he does so, and he, having thus gone forth, might dwell restrained in body, speech, and thought, satisfied with the minimum of food and clothing, content in solitude. And then, if people were to announce to you, Sire, do you remember that slave who worked in your presence, and who shaved off his hair and beard, and went forth into homelessness? He is living restrained in body, speech, and thought, in solitude. Would you then say, that man must come back and be a slave and work for me as before? Counter question by the Buddha. No, indeed, Lord, for we should pay homage to him. We should rise and invite him and press him to receive from us robes, food, lodging, medicines for sickness and requisites, and make arrangement for his proper protection. What do you think, sire? Is that one fruit of the homeless life visible here and now? Certainly, Lord. Then that, sire, is the first such fruit of the homeless life. Sorry. But Lord, can you show any other reward visible here and now as fruit of the homeless life? I can, sire. I will just ask a few questions in return, and you, sire, shall answer as you see fit. What do you think, sire? Suppose there were a man, a farmer, a householder, in your service, the steward of an estate. He might think, it is strange, it is wonderful, the destiny and fruits of meritorious deeds. This King Ajasattu is a man, and I too am a man. The king is addicted to and indulges in the fivefold sense pleasures, just like a god, whereas I am a farmer, the steward of an estate. I ought to do something meritorious. Suppose I were to go forth from the household life into homelessness, and before long he does so, and he, having thus gone forth, might dwell in solitude. And if people were to tell you this, would you then say, that man must come back and be a steward as before? No, indeed, Lord, for we should pay homage to him. We should rise and invite him and press him to receive from us robes, food, lodging, medicines for sickness and requisites, and make arrangements for his proper protection. What do you think, sire? Is that one fruit of the homeless life visible here and now? Certainly, Lord. Then that, sire, is the second such fruit of the homeless life. But, Lord, can you show me any other reward visible here and now as a fruit of the homeless life that is more excellent and perfect than those? Yes, Lord, said King Ajatasattu, and the Lord went on. Your Majesty, it happens that a Tathagata arises in the world, an Arahant, fully enlightened Buddha, endowed with wisdom and conduct, welfarer, knower of the worlds, incomparable trainer of men to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, enlightened and blessed. He, having realized it by his own super-knowledge, proclaims this world with its devas, maras, and brahmas, its princes and people. He preaches the Dhamma, which is lovely in its beginning, lovely in its middle, lovely in its ending, in the spirit and in the letter, and displays the fully perfected and purified holy life. This Dhamma... Oh, wait a minute, we had some footnotes on maras and princes. So, 117 maras. Mara, the personified tempter, like the biblical Satan. He appears in person in the Digha Nikaya number 16. Both Mara and Brahma are subject to rebirth, and their office is taken over by other beings according to their karma. So that was Mara and its princess. Deva, again, this time in the sense of devas by convention, i.e. kings. He preaches the Dhamma, which is lovely in its beginning, lovely in its middle, lovely in its ending. This Dhamma is heard by a householder, or a householder's son, or one reborn in some family or other. Having heard this Dhamma, he gains faith in the Tathagata. Having gained this faith, he reflects. This household life is close and dusty. The homeless life is free as air. It is not easy living the household life to live the fully perfected holy life, purified and polished like a conch shell. Suppose I were to shave off my hair and beard, don yellow robes, and go forth from the household life into homelessness, and after some time he abandons his property, small or great, leaves a circle of relatives, small or great, shaves off his hair and beard. I almost said head, but you can't shave off your head. Shaves off his hair and beard, dons yellow robes, and goes forth into homeless life. And having gone forth, let me just try and sit in a nice, comfortable position. Just lift Lifting my leg up, rocking a little bit. I feel a little bit tense. And having gone forth, he dwells restrained by the restraint of the rules, persisting in right behavior, seeing danger in the slightest faults, observing the commitments he has taken on regarding body, deed, and word, devoted to the skilled and purified life, perfected in morality, with the sense skilled and purified life. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so devoted to the skilled and purified life, perfected in morality with the sense doors guarded, skilled in mindful awareness and content. And how, sire, is a monk perfected in morality? Abandoning the taking of life, he dwells refraining from taking life, without stick or sword, scrupulous, compassionate, trembling for the welfare of all living beings. Thus, he is accomplished in morality, abandoning the taking of what is not given, abandoning unchastity, and so on through the three sections of morality as Sutta 1. A monk refrains from such base arts and wrong means of livelihood. Thus he is perfected in morality. Okay. And then, sire, that monk who is perfected in morality sees no danger from any side, owing to his being restrained by morality, just as a duty-anointed Katya king, having conquered his enemies, by that very fact sees no danger from any side. So, the monk, on account of his morality, sees no danger anywhere. He experiences in himself the blameless bliss that comes from maintaining this Aryan morality. In this way, sire, is he perfected in morality. And how, sire, is he a guardian of the sense doors? Here, a monk, on seeing a visible object with the eye, does not grasp at its major signs or secondary characteristics, because greed and sorrow, evil unskilled states, would overwhelm him if he dwelt leaving this eye faculty unguarded. So he practices guarding it. He protects the eye faculty. Develops restraint of the eye faculty. On hearing a sound with the ear, on smelling an odor with the nose, on tasting a flavor with the tongue, on feeling an object with the body, on thinking a thought with the mind, he does not grasp at its major signs or secondary characteristics. He develops restraint of the mind faculty. He experiences within himself the blameless bliss that comes from maintaining this Aryan guarding of the faculties. In this way, sire, a monk is a guardian of the sense doors. an Aryan guard. And how, sire, is a monk accomplished in mindfulness and clear awareness? Here, a monk acts with clear awareness in going forth and back, in looking ahead or behind him, in bending and stretching, in wearing his outer and inner robe and carrying his bowl, in eating, drinking, chewing and swallowing, in evacuating and urinating, in walking, standing, sitting, lying down, or walking, in waking, in speaking, and in keeping silent, he acts with clear awareness. In this way, a monk is accomplished in mindfulness and clear awareness. So I want to add to clear awareness. How do you cultivate this clarity of mind, basically? And so the way that contented. So when someone has established morality and is guarding the precepts of not killing and not stealing, not lying, not committing illicit sex, like cheating or sex with minors or rape or any kind of wrong sex and not taking drugs and alcohol, leading one to carelessness and breaking the other precepts. When one has established oneself in morality and is thus training, one would start to concentrate, and with a concentrated mind, some say that you don't actually have to come into such a state of calm and peace that comes from not killing and stealing. But I say it's not that you're concentrating or using a mantra to focus on this state. It is a state that comes about naturally. So this is different kinds of concentration. One is like a greater concentration, which is actually just the developing a foundation of a healthy mind, which brings about the result of such cultivation. And the other one is, for example, if your house is on fire and you just focus on looking at the wall, and so even if you start to catch fire yourself, you don't even feel the fire, you're just so focused that you don't feel the fire, and then the whole house burns down. That's another kind of concentration. And the first one is different because it's based on insights of investigating this keeping of morality. So these insights are what brings this greater clarity by not actually pushing away the kind of the problems in life, like the burning house, for example. So focusing on the house is on fire as being a danger. Actually, the house is on fire. It's just control over here, offering lights to the Buddha. So instead of, not doing what should be done essentially, and just looking away at something else because it is on the whim or by the, because of being lazy and not doing what should be done, That's not the right concentration. But what I want to get at is how to actually, because you don't have, this can actually be done just right now. You can have a clear mind state. So for example, if you're focusing right now on the experience of hearing, don't try and look at or understand even the meaning of the words right now if you're listening to the speakers, which kind of sends out my voice right now. Then you could say to yourself, hearing, just quietly in the mind, and that is the mantra. And doing that just now as the experience of hearing arises in reality, that means that the mind is focusing in on what is ultimately real, ultimate reality, paramatta, satya, the ultimate truth. And so when the mind does this, even just one time or two times, or like for 1 minute, even though then first you're hearing, and then you're feeling, and then you're feeling the tension from holding the book, and you're probably not holding a book, as I am. That was just my example. But you're feeling these things as they arise and as they are present. It's not like when I'm done here, it's not like I sit and think about the experience of holding the book in my arm and not putting it down, just holding it. That would be wrong mindfulness, because that doesn't give you the opportunity to penetrate this ultimate reality. And so even just doing this a couple of times is just like a raindrop, whereas one drop at the time, the pot is slowly filled. And that is kind of the perfect image of mindfulness, of creating clarity, clearer moments of mind, which in turn should become like a reservoir of wealth or water, in this case being the image of mindfulness, drop by drop. And so since this technique of the mantra of penetrating to the core experience itself, which doesn't actually have a core, like a solid core, it's just that the mind takes the ultimate reality itself as its object, instead of, for example, a concept of saying Buddho, like being mindful of the Buddha. That focuses the mind, and it calms the mind, and it makes the mind happy to think of the Buddha. But it does not focus in on ultimate reality in the sense of doing insight meditation. Then it becomes like samadhi meditation, which means concentration meditation. And that is taking the meditator outside of reality and into what we call conceptual reality. Anyway, questions, put them below and I will answer them. And we continue on. 66. And how is a monk contented? Here, a monk is satisfied with a robe to protect his body, with alms to satisfy his stomach, and having accepted sufficient, he goes on his way, just as a bird with wings flies hither and thither, burdened by nothing but its wings. So he is satisfied in this way, sire. A monk is contented. Then he, equipped with this Aryan morality, with this Aryan restraint of the senses, with this Aryan contentment, finds a solitary lodging at the root of a forest tree, in a mountain cave or gorge, or charnel ground, a jungle thicket, or in the open air on a heap of straw. Then, having eaten, after his return from the alms round, he sits down cross-legged, holding his body erect, and concentrates on keeping mindfulness established before him. Footnote 119. Parimukhang satting pattapetva probably means having firmly established mindfulness. Concentrate on keeping mindfulness established before him. So he is using his mind to look at the mind. Or the mind to look at the body. But if the mind looks at the mind looking at the body, that's still the mind looking at the mind. Yeah. So that's like a whole thing about present reality. Nothing actually is present. Even just now, this, what I want to say, I thought that before it actually comes out of my mouth. So that's the meaning of present reality, is kind of queuing things up. And also because things cannot happen for physiological reasons and just like part of the law of reality of being a human, for example. Isn't that being a human relative? That's not really important. Abandoning worldly desire, he dwells with the mind freed from worldly desires, and his mind is purified of them, abandoning ill will and hatred, and by compassionate love for the welfare of all living beings, his mind is purified of all ill will and hatred. Purified by opposite, compassionate love, which is not just passionate love, is compassionate love. Abandoning sloth and torpor, perceiving light, 120. Cultivation of the perception of light is given as a standard way of overcoming the hindrance of sloth and torpor. Okay, so focusing, this is a samadhi concentration. You can focus on a light disk in the mind, like with the color blue, like this disk, focusing on the mind until you can see it, and then expanding it before you in your mind. Or if you don't want to do concentration meditation, you could just do walking meditation and gain energy thereby. Or as I find it very, very energizing to study. But sometimes if you're tired and you're feeling slothy, then you would just fall asleep if you pick up a book. Like if you've been meditating it can just sometimes happen, the body just becomes so lazy, even though it doesn't actually have a reason for it necessarily. It's karma, if you have put out the causes for being not energetic in the in the past, then it's gonna come up here in this present moment or in the future, and then you're just gonna be like, oh, I can't do nothing. So putting out the opposite causes for being energetic is a good way to counteract that. abandoning sloth and torpor, perceiving light. But it is a direct like the Buddha is pointing out here this concentration meditation and kind of its purpose. Mindfulness and clearly aware. His mind is purified of sloth and torpor by the blue disc meditation, or any color, white. Abandoning worry and flurry. And with and with an inward calm mind, his heart is purified of worry and flurry. Of worry and flurry. That's funny. Abandoning doubt. So this is the taint. Abandoning doubt, he dwells with doubt left behind, without uncertainty as to what things are wholesome. His mind is purified of doubt, just as a man who had taken a loan to develop his business, and whose business had prospered, might pay off his old debts, and with what was left over could support a wife, might think, before this I developed my business by borrowing, but now it has prospered, and he would rejoice and be glad about it. About that. Just as a man who was ill, suffering, terribly sick, with no appetite and weak in body, might after a time recover and regain his appetite and bodily strength. He might think, before this I was ill, and he would rejoice and be glad about that. Just as a man might be bound in prison, and after a time he might be freed from his bonds without any loss, no deduction from his possessions, he might think, before this I was in prison, and he would rejoice and be glad about that. Just as a man might be a slave, not his own master, dependent on another, unable to go where he liked, and after some time he might be freed from slavery, able to go where he liked, might he think, before this I was a slave, and he would rejoice and be glad about that. Just as a man, laden with goods and wealth, might go on a long journey through the desert, where food was scarce and danger abounded, and after a time he would get through the desert and arrive safe and sound at the edge of a village, might think, before this I was in danger, now I am safe at the edge of a village. Safe. And he would rejoice and be glad about that. As long, sire, as a monk does not perceive the disappearance of the 5 hindrances in himself, he feels as if in debt, in sickness, in bonds, in slavery, on a desert journey. But when he perceives the disappearance of the 5 hindrances in himself, it is as if he were freed from death, from sickness, from bonds, from slavery, from the perils of the desert. There's a mosquito on my nose. Can you see it? And when he knows that these 5 hindrances have left him, gladness arises in him. From gladness comes delight. From the delight in his mind, his body is tranquilized. With a tranquil body, he feels joy. And with joy in his mind, he is concentrated. Being thus detached from sense desires, detached from unwholesome states, he enters and remains in the first jhana, which is with thinking and pondering, born of detachment, filled with delight and joy. And with this delight and joy, born of detachment, he so suffuses, drenches, fills and irradiates his body, that there is no spot in his entire body that is untouched by this delight and joy born of detachment. Just as a skilled bathman or his assistant knitting, I think it says kneading the soap powder, which he has sprinkled with water, forms from it in a metal dish a soft lump, so that the ball of soap powder becomes one oleaginous mass, bound with oil, so that nothing escapes. So this monk suffuses, drenches, fills, and radiates his body, so that no spot remains untouched. This, sire, is a fruit of the homeless life, visible here and now, that is more excellent and perfect than the former ones. Footnote 222. This concludes the Buddha's answer to the first part of the question posed in verse 39. Okay, so let me just have a little look and see how far, or if there's anything coming up. In the form of a reading break. No, we should just go through it. So yeah, remember you could just hit the pause button and go and catch something to drink, or maybe take a trip to get some water. And I think we have a couple of pages left, 5 pages or so. And of course you should be able to see how long in time there is left on this video if you look at the bar below. I don't know how long it's gonna take, but I'm just gonna read all the way through and finish the sutta today. Again, a monk, with the subsiding of thinking and pondering, by gaining inner tranquility and oneness of mind, enters and remains in the second jhana, which is without thinking and pondering, born of concentration, filled with delight and joy. And with this delight and joy born of concentration, he so suffuses his body, so that no spot remains untouched. Just as a lake fed by a spring, with no inflow from east, west, north, or south, where the rain god sends moderate showers from time to time, the water welling up from below, mingling with cool water, would suffuse, fill, and irradiate that cool water, so that no part of the pool was untouched by it. So, with this delight and joy born of concentration, he so suffuses his body, so that no spot remains untouched. This, sire, is a fruit more excellent and perfect than the former ones. Again, a monk, with the fading away of delight, remains imperturbable, mindful and clearly aware, and experiences in himself that joy which the noble ones say, "Happy is he who dwells with equanimity and mindfulness." And he enters and remains in the third jhana, And with this joy, devoid of delight, he so suffuses his body so that no spot remains untouched by it. Just as if in a pond of blue, red, or white lotuses, Upala, Paduma, Puntarika, blue, red, and white lotuses. Cool footnote. Just as if in a pond of blue, red, and white lotuses, in which the flowers born in the water, grown in the water, not growing out of the water, are fed from the water's depths, those blue, red, or white lotuses would be suffused with the cool water. So, with this joy devoid of delight, the monk so suffuses his body so that no spot remains untouched. This is a fruit of the homeless life, more excellent and perfect than the former ones. Again, a monk, having given up pleasure and pain, and with the disappearance of former gladness and sadness, enters and remains in the fourth jhana, which is beyond pleasure and pain, and purified by equanimity and mindfulness. And he sits suffusing his body with that mental purity and clarification, so that no part of his body is untouched by it. Just as if a man were to sit wrapped from head to foot in with a white garment, so that no part of him was untouched by it, that garment, so his body is suffused. This is a fruit of the homeless life, more excellent and perfect than the former ones. And so, with mind concentrated, purified and cleansed, unblemished, free from impurities, malleable, workable, is established, and having gained imperturbability, he directs and inclines his mind towards knowing and seeing. And he knows, this, my body, is material, made up from the four great elements, born of mother and father, fed on rice and gruel, impermanent, liable to be injured and abraded, broken and destroyed. And this is my consciousness, which is bound to it and dependent on it. R.D. points out that this and other passages disprove the idea of consciousness when jhana transmigrates. For holding this belief, Sati was severely rebuked by the Buddha. A new relinking consciousness, patisanti, arises at conception, dependent on the old. Okay, so this monk Sati who said that it is the same consciousness that goes from one birth to the next. But that's not the case. It's new consciousness based on the old consciousness. So it's similar. Not same. Sameness is a misconception. Okay. It is just as if there were a gem, a barrel, beryl, 126. Veluria, from a metathesized form, verulia, comes from Greek. Spectacles. I don't know that. Pure. It is just as if there were a gem, a beryl, pure, excellent, well cut into 8 facets, clear, bright, unflawed, perfect in every respect. Strong on a blue, yellow, red, white, or orange cord, a man with good eyesight taking it in his hand and inspecting it would describe it as such. In the same way, sire, a monk with his mind concentrated, purified, and cleansed directs his mind towards knowing and seeing, and he knows this. My body is material made up of the 4 great elements, and this is my consciousness, which is bound to it and dependent on it. This is the fruit of the homeless life, more excellent and perfect than the former ones. And he, with mind concentrated, having gained imperturbability, applies and directs his mind to the production of a mind-made body, and out of this body he produces another body, having a form mind-made, complete in all its limbs and faculties. 127. Exactly like the physical body, this mind-made body is what is mistaken for a soul or self. You should check out our episode called something like the mind, soul, and body. I'll put a link to the Digha Nikaya playlist below, where it is in. It is just as if a man were to draw out a reed from its sheath. He might think, this is the reed, this is the sheet. Reed and sheet are different. Now, the reed has been pulled from the sheet or as if a man were to draw a sword from the scabbard. He might think, this is the sword, this is the scabbard. Sword and scabbard are different. Now the sword has been drawn from the scabbard. Or as if a man were to draw a snake from its old skin. He might think, this is the snake, this is the skin. Snake and skin are different. Now the snake has been drawn from its skin. In the same way, a monk with mind concentrated directs his mind to the production of a mind-made body. He draws that body out of this body, having form mind-made, complete with all its limbs and faculties. This is the fruit of the homeless life, more excellent and perfect than the former ones. And he, with mind concentrated, applies and directs his mind to the various supernormal powers. Itti. He enjoys different powers. Being one, he becomes many. Being many, he becomes one. He appears and disappears. He passes through fences, walls, and mountains, unhindered, as if through the air. He sinks into the ground and emerges from it as if it were water. He walks on the water without breaking the surface, as if on land. He flies cross-legged through the sky, like a bird with wings. He even touches and strokes with his hand the sun and the moon, mighty and powerful as they are. And he travels in the body as far as the Brahma world. Sun and the moon. Let me just read this. DA has no useful comment on this, touching the sun and the moon. And modern commentators too are silent, but touching the sun and the moon probably refers to some psychic experience. In any case, it is certainly not to be taken literally. So contact with the sun and the moon was a contact with the hand. No, he touches it with his hand. Let me just get this straight. Certainly not to be taken literally. I would say that it probably is to be taken literally, that if you have this concentrated mind and you have a mind-made body, why wouldn't you just go and touch the moon and the sun? And if your body is made of mind, I don't see the big problem with reaching out and touching the sun. Obviously, he's referring to it being like something of supernatural to touch the moon or touch the sun. But the Buddha has already stated that it is on the foundation of having created this mind-made body. So I don't understand what how it is that it should be hard to. I mean, you could make a mind-made body that's bigger than the sun, right? And then you could pick up the sun and just obviously if you move the sun, you would stir up the whole universe, and our planets would spin out of its orb around the sun. But still, you could, I don't see why you shouldn't be able to make huge mind-made body if you are the Buddha or someone like him. So the Buddha also describes how actually the sun or the earth and the moon are drawn away from each other, which is done by defilements. So who could possibly push the earth and the sun away from each other, or the earth and the moon? Would that also be termed like supernatural to do that? It seems more natural than anything really. It would be unnatural to state otherwise. Let's just try and get a grasp here. Okay, so just as a skilled potter or his assistant can make from well-prepared clay whatever kind of bowl he likes, or just as a skilled ivory carver or his assistant can produce from well-prepared ivory any objects he likes, or just as a skilled goldsmith and his assistant can make any gold article he likes, so the monk with the mind concentrated, enjoys various supernormal powers. This is the fruit of the homeless life. And he, with the mind concentrated, applies and directs his mind to the divine ear. 130. Tipa Sutta, clairaudience. Okay. To the divine ear, with the divine ear purified and surpassing that of human beings, he hears sounds both divine and human, whether far or near. And just as a man going on a long journey might hear the sound of a big drum, a small drum, a conch, cymbals, or a kettle drum, and he might think, that is a big drum, a kettle drum, and so forth, so the monk with the mind concentrated hears sounds, divine or human, far or near. This is a fruit of the homeless life, more excellent and perfected than the former ones. And he, with mind concentrated, applies and directs his mind to the knowledge of others' minds. He knows and distinguishes with his mind the minds of other beings or other persons. He knows the mind with passion to be with passion. He knows the mind without passion to be without passion. He knows the mind with hate to be with hate. He knows the mind without hate to be without hate. He knows the deluded mind to be deluded. He knows the undeluded mind to be undeluded. He knows the narrow mind to be narrow. He knows the broad mind to be broad. He knows the expanded mind to be expanded. He knows the unexpanded mind to be unexpanded. He knows the surpassed mind to be surpassed. He knows the unsurpassed mind to be unsurpassed. He knows the concentrated mind to be concentrated. He knows the unconcentrated mind to be unconcentrated. He knows the liberated mind to be liberated. He knows the unliberated mind to be unliberated. Just as if a woman or a man or a young boy fond of his appearance might examine his face in a brightly polished mirror or in water, and by examination would know whether there was a spot there or not. So the monk with mind concentrated directs his mind to the knowledge of others' minds. This is the fruit of the homeless life, more perfect than the former ones. And with the mind concentrated, he applies and directs this mind to the knowledge of previous existences. He remembers many previous existences. 1 birth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, or 5 births, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 100,000, 100,000 births. Several periods of contraction, of expansion, of both contraction and expansion. There my name was so-and-so, my clan was so-and-so, my caste was so-and-so, my food was such and such, I experienced such and such pleasant and painful conditions. I lived for so long. Having passed away from there, I rose there. There, my name was so-and-so, and having passed away from there, I rose here. Thus, he remembers various past births, their conditions and details. It is just as if a man were to go from his village to another, from that to yet another, and thence return to his home village. He might think, I came from my own village to that other one, where I stood, sat, spoke, or remained silent, like this, And from that one I went to another one, where I stood, sat, spoke, or remained silent like this. And from there I have just returned to my own village. Villages. The three villages are the three worlds of sense, desire, of form, and the formless world. The three worlds: sense, desire, form, and the formless world. Just so, the monk with mind concentrated remembers past births. This is the fruit of the homeless life, and he, with mind concentrated, applies and directs his mind to the knowledge of the passing away and arising of beings with the divine eye. Dipachekko, clairvoyance, not to be confused with Dhamma eye. Yeah. So the divine eye is not the Dhamma eye, the eye of the Dhamma. With the divine eye purified and surpassing that of humans, he sees beings passing away and arising, base and noble, well-favored and ill-favored, to happy and unhappy destinations as karma directs them. And he knows these beings on account of misconduct of body, speech or thought, or disparaging the noble ones, have wrong view and will suffer the comic fate of wrong view. At the break-up of the body after death, they are reborn in a lower world, a bad destination, a state of suffering, hell. But these beings, on account of good conduct of body, speech, or thought, or of praising the noble ones, have right view and will reap the comic reward of right view. At the breakup of the body after death, they are reborn in a good destination, a heavenly world. Thus, with the divine eye, he sees beings passing away and re-arising. It is just as if there were a lofty building at a crossroads, and a man with good eyesight standing there might see people entering or leaving a house, walking in the street, or sitting in the middle of the crossroads. And he might think these are entering a house. Just so, with the divine eye, he sees beings passing away and re-arising. This is the fruit of the homeless life. And with the mind concentrated, purified and cleansed, unblemished, free from impurities, malleable, workable, established, and having gained imperturbability, applies and directs his mind to the knowledge of the destruction of the corruptions. Asawa. From Asawati flows towards Asawa, Wasa, Asawa. Oh, Asawa, Awasa. Okay, I was just thinking about the Pali word for abode or home, Asawa. No, Awasa. And this is called Asawa. Anyway, Diti Asawa is sometimes added. The destruction of the Asawas is equivalent to arahantship. He knows as it really is. This is suffering. He knows as it really is. This is the origin of suffering. He knows as it really is. This is the cessation of suffering. He knows as it really is. This is the path leading to the cessation of suffering. And he knows as it really is. These are the corruptions. This is the origin of the corruptions. And this is the cessation of the corruptions. This is the path leading to the cessation of the corruptions, and through his knowing and seeing, his mind is delivered from the corruption of sense desire, from the corruption of becoming, from the corruption of ignorance, and the knowledge arises in him. This is deliverance. He knows. Birth is finished. The holy life has been led. Done is what had to be done. There is nothing furthermore. Footnote 135. Naparang itta taya. There is no more of lostness. Naparang itarata itta taya. Naparang itataya. There is no more of thusness. It's so funny. It's not funny, it's like, it's just thusness. Who says thusness? The ones who know says thusness. Just as if, sire, in the midst of the mountains there were a pond clear as a polished mirror, where a man with good eyesight standing on the bank could see oyster shells, gravel banks, and shoals of fish on the move or stationary, and he might think, this pond is clear. There are oyster shells. Just so, with the mind concentrated, he knows. Birth is finished. The holy life has been led. Done is what had to be done. There is nothing further here. No further thusness. Let's just read again how it actually said. Naparang itata itataya itataya naparang itataya naparang itataya. This, sire, is the fruit of the homeless life, visible here and now, which is more excellent and perfect. I always try to say perfected, which is more excellent and perfect than the previous fruits. And sire, there is no fruit of the homeless life. Oh, I'm sorry. And sire, wait a minute, that was right. Okay. And sire, there is no fruit of the homeless life, visible here and now, that is more excellent and perfect than this. All the preceding fruits have led up to this, which alone, as R.D. points out, is exclusively Buddhist. There are 13 items or groups, and the lists in whole or with some omissions recurs in every sutta of Division 1. They are 1. The respect shown to a member of a religious order. 2. The training in morality. 3. Confidence felt as a result of right action. 4. The habit of guarding the sense doors. 5. Resulting mindfulness and clear awareness. 6. Being content with little. 7. freedom from the 5 hindrances, resulting joy and peace. Okay, 8. They forgot to put in 8. 9. The four jhanas. 10. Knowledge born of insight. 11. Production of mental images. 12. The 5 mundane forms of higher knowledge. Abhinya. 13. The realization of the 4 noble truths. The destruction of the corruptions. The 6th supramundane abhinya, and the attainment of arahantship. That was a good footnote. Nothing, sire, there is no fruit of the homeless life visible here and now that is more excellent than this. Narapang, no. Naparang ittataya. There's no more thusness. At this, King Ajatasattu exclaimed, "Excellent, Lord, excellent." It is as if someone were to set up what had been knocked down, or to point out the way to one who had got lost, or to bring an oil lamp into a dark place, so that those with eyes could see what was there. Just so, the blessed Lord has expounded the Dhamma in various ways, and I, Lord, go for refuge to the blessed Lord, to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha. May the blessed Lord accept me from this day forth as a lay follower, as long as life shall last. Transgression overcame me, Lord, foolish, erring, and wicked as I was, in that I, for the sake of the throne, deprived my father, that good man and just king, of his life. May the blessed Lord accept my confession of my evil deed, that I may restrain myself in the future. Indeed, sire, transgression overcame you when you deprived your father, that good man and just king, of his life. But since you have acknowledged the transgression and confessed it as is right, we will accept it. For he who acknowledges his transgression as such and confesses it for betterment in future will grow in the Aryan discipline. At this, King Ajatasattu said, "Lord, permit me to depart now. I am busy and have much to do. Do now, Your Majesty, as you think fit." Then King Ajatasattu, rejoicing and delighting at these words, rose from his seat, saluted the Lord, and departed with his right side towards him. As soon as the king had gone, the Lord said, "The king is done for. His fate is sealed, monks." 139. Katayang bhikkhave upahattayang bhikkhave. Already went astray with his translation here. This king, brethren. His fate is sealed, monks. But if the king had not deprived his father, that good man and just king, of his life, then, as he sat here, the pure and spotless Dhamma eye would have arisen in him. The pure and spotless Dhamma eye, the opening of the Dhamma eye, Dhamma Chakra, is a term for entering the stream and thus being set irrevocably on the path, as Ardi points out. It is superior to the divine eye, which we just heard about, Dipa Chakra, which is a superior kind of clairvoyance, and below the wisdom eye, Panya Chakra, which is the wisdom of the Arahant. Thus the Lord spoke, and the monks, delighted, rejoiced at his words. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So this king Ajasattu, he could not enter the stream or become a Sotapanna, or the first stage of enlightenment. And if he had not killed his own father, the good king, to get the throne, then he would have become enlightened right there on the spot. But because he killed his father, a deed which weighs so heavily on the mind that it completely blocks one from becoming enlightened in this existence, because of the mind cannot the mind of this king Ajasattu, who had killed his father, and it's the same if you kill a mother or an Arahant or heard a Buddha. There cannot be any joy in that mind. There cannot be found a moment's peace. And so to be able to become enlightened, you have to be able to find peace. If you're constantly haunted and get not even a second's moment of rest, then there's no chance at all for the mind to settle firmly into the practice of meditation. And so that mind is completely destroyed. And that's why the Buddha said, the king is done for. His fate is sealed, monks. But if the king had not deprived his father, or mother, or Arahant, or Buddha, or heard a Buddha, had not deprived his father, that good man and just king, of his life, then, as he had sat here pure and spotless, Dhamma eye would have arisen in him. So, for any one of us out here who have not killed our parents, mother, father, or herd, or killed an Arahant or hurt a Buddha, or even just insulted an Arya, someone, or even just someone on the path to become enlightened, then maybe by now we would have opened the Dhamma eye in our own minds so that we could become enlightened. And wouldn't that be the best case for all? And that is definitely my wish for you who by now have been going for 2 hours with me through the Samaññaphala Sutta, the fruits of the homeless life. And so I would like to thank you so much for your attention, and thank you for listening. And may you soon attain to the Dhamma eye hereby, and by your own efforts and investigations into the truth about things as they are. So yeah, without much else to say, don't forget to leave a like and click the subscribe button for more, and you can check out the full playlist of our Digha Nikaya study below. There should be a link where you will find links to other interesting studies of the Dhamma. And so may your practice flourish, and may you find true peace, happiness, and freedom from suffering. Sadhu. And let's do the outro. Namo Buddhassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, and the fully self-enlightened one. Thank you. And peace. Have an awesome time and come back and study some more, and it's gonna be awesome. And now I will drink my tea and be on my way. So thanks, and bye bye for this time.